Good day. My name is Shivran Singh, and I am a recent graduate of the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, class of 2020. But before all this, I was just like you, a former student of Mrs. Shanaz Ghani, studying for my CSEC O-level examinations. Today, I've been asked to discuss with you all the topic of respiration and factors affecting breathing. So we begin by taking a look at the respiratory system, which is one of the organ systems in the body responsible for maintaining life. So there are two types of respiration. There's anaerobic and there's aerobic respiration. In this class, we'll be looking at aerobic respiration, which involves the use of oxygen to release energy or to generate energy from the cells of the body. So this usually involves or is closely linked to the process of breathing, which is a movement of air in and out of the lungs. So essentially, when you breathe, you're bringing oxygen into the body, and this is what is used in aerobic respiration to generate the energy that the cells need to survive. Also, when you breathe, it gets rid of a waste product called carbon dioxide, which is generated by the cells. And when you breathe out, this carbon dioxide is what is released into the environment and is what is removed from the body. So we'll now be looking at the anatomy or the structures that actually make up the respiratory system. And this begins with the nasal cavity or your nostrils, where when you breathe in, air enters, and when you breathe out, air exits. The air then moves to the larynx, the trachea, which then divides into two bronchi, the left and the right, which then divides or branches into smaller and smaller bronchioles. These are essentially the pathway of the respiratory system, and the bronchioles then end in these tiny air sacs or alveoli, which are all located inside of the lungs. The lungs themselves are spongy tissues which are elastic and are able to expand and contract when you breathe in and out. So apart from the lungs and these airways, the other structures involved in the respiratory system is an important muscle known as the diaphragm. The diaphragm is able to contract and relax. When it contracts, it moves down and it increases the space inside the thorax or your chest cavity. When it relaxes, it is pushed upwards and it decreases the space inside the thorax or chest cavity. And the other muscles which are important to the respiratory system are the intercostal muscles. They're internal and the external intercostal muscles. And these are involved in the movement of the rib cage and sternum with breathing. There's also the parietal and visceral pleura, which make up the two pleural membranes which are present between the lungs and the ribs. Between these membranes is also something called pleural fluid, which acts as a lubricant that prevents any friction between the lungs and the rib cages during breathing. So now we'll be moving on to the factors affecting breathing. And we'll begin by first looking at the processes of breathing, namely inspiration and expiration. So inspiration is a process of breathing in. And to begin, when inspiration occurs, the diaphragm, that important muscle separating the thorax from the abdomen, it contracts. And when it contracts, it moves downwards. This increases the space inside your thoracic or chest cavity. Another group of muscles, the intercostal muscles, they also play a role in inspiration. The external intercostal muscles contract, while the internal intercostal muscles relax. And by doing so, they move your sternum and ribcage upwards and outwards. This also serves to increase the space inside your thoracic or chest cavity. Both these movements serve the purpose of decreasing the pressure inside of your chest cavity. And when it does so, it decreases it to a level below the atmospheric pressure outside of the body. I need to know a bit of physics for this part because air tends to move from an area of high pressure to an area of low pressure. So if the area of pressure inside of your chest cavity or your thoracic cavity, known as the intrathoracic pressure, is lower than the atmospheric pressure, air will tend to move from outside to inside of the body. And when it moves inside of the body, this is what causes your lungs to become filled with air and to expand. And as a result, air is brought into the body so it can be exchanged with the cells to bring oxygen into the body. In expiration, you have essentially the complete opposite. You have the diaphragm relaxing, and when it does so, it moves upwards and it decreases the space inside of your chest cavity or the thorax. Then you have the external intercostal muscles relaxing and the internal intercostal muscles contracting. And by doing so, they move the rib cage and sternum inwards and downwards, also decreasing the space inside of your chest cavity. Both these movements then serve to increase the pressure inside of your chest cavity or thorax, hence increasing the intrathoracic pressure. Increasing it to a level so much that it is now above atmospheric pressure. And again, if we follow the same rules that were stated in inspiration, air moves from an area of higher pressure to an area of lower pressure. And this is what forces air out of your lungs, out of the thoracic cavity, and into the external environment. So you are breathing out. And when you breathe out, you're removing the carbon dioxide that was generated from the cells inside of the body. Now we're taking a look at the factors that affect the rate and depth of breathing, or factors that affect how fast and how deep you breathe. So factors that increase the rate and depth of breathing include exercise, anxiety, excitement, moving to a higher altitude such as on top of a mountain where the oxygen concentration in the air is lower than here at sea level. So you have to work harder to breathe to meet the oxygen requirements of the body. Also smoking, increased weight, and certain drugs such as amphetamines all increase how fast and how deep you have to breathe. Factors that decrease this rate and depth of breathing include resting or recovering from exercise, sleep, moving to a lower altitude or coming back down from the high altitude, and certain drugs such as barbiturates, and as well as certain diseases such as asthma and bronchitis, where you have mucus kind of clogging the airways, and so you cannot breathe as forcefully as you would like. However, the main factor influencing breathing is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide levels are monitored by the brain, and which then determines how fast and how deep we breathe in order to maintain the carbon dioxide inside of the body at a level which is safe. And this is an example of homeostasis. Now I'd just like to mention a brief description of vital capacity. So vital capacity is the volume of air that you exhale after you take the deepest breath that you can. So essentially after maximal inspiration, the maximal expiration, that amount of air that you release in that maximal expiration after maximal inspiration is the volume of air that is your vital capacity. Now I'd just like to talk to you all briefly about the effects of smoking and some of its addictive properties. So cigarette smoking, tobacco smoking, it is a habit that many develop and is one that over a period of time can be very damaging to your lungs. It results in the buildup of tar in both the airways as well as in the lungs, and this reduces how effective your gaseous exchange process is. So you're unable to exchange as much oxygen for carbon dioxide as a non-smoker or an healthier person. Also, smoking results in a buildup of mucus in the airways, such as the trachea and the bronchioles, because it reduces how effective the cilia or tiny hairs in the airway are able to clear mucus, and as a result, the buildup creates a chronic cough as well as increases the risks of infection. I would like to thank you all for your time and attention, and I wish you the best of luck in your upcoming exams. And just a message on the current coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic. It is a difficult time for all of us, and I do commend all of you for going ahead with studying for your and preparing for your exams in these most difficult times. And I hope you continue to do your part by practicing social distancing, washing your hands, and staying at home and listening to the government's directives to avoid any unnecessary close contact. All the best.